Hello, this is Patrick. Welcome to Chart Built Wealth, Profitable Investing with Technical Analysis. I wanted to give a weekly update on our buy recommendations. So let's get into it. First of all, MP Resources, symbol MP. We had a great gain on that and we went neutral on that. So that's no longer in the buy recommendations at this point. I will probably revisit that sometime in the near future. But let's take a look at the current buy recommendations. And I'm trying to do this in order to what I think the short term uh, outlook is and where the potential largest gains are. I want to start with the S&P 500. I'm just going to touch on this because I did an update on it just a couple of days ago, reiterating my bearish call. And I still have that bearish call on. And you can see since we broke where my initial stop was, we've kind of edged higher, but in a real grinding way that shows me a lot of complacency in the market. On the daily chart, we have a negative divergence, so that also is pointing to short-term weakness. And the potential on the downside could be really great. I'm not saying it is today or tomorrow, but I do think that being short the S&P or the Nasdaq actually uh, with a portion of your portfolio is a good idea. National Retail Properties, a recent new buy recommendation. This isn't a great, sexy name, as many of my names are not great, sexy names. They're not NVIDIA. They're not, uh, things that people want to get all excited, AI type companies, because I think a lot of those uh, are showing big negative divergences, and the downside is it's a very crowded trade, and I think there's a lot of risk in those. But National Retail Properties looks good to me. NNN is the symbol. We have a much bigger chart on the monthly that I showed on the new buy recommendation about a week ago. You can take a look at that. And the big pattern says that which is over 3 or 4 years, says that this particular stock could go really high. Um, but let's just take a look at something a little more tradable, something that over the next 6 months might generate good returns for you, and NNN looks good. We have a bullish inverse head and shoulders pattern, a left shoulder, a head, a right shoulder, a neckline. The symmetry isn't great between the left and right shoulder, but it's still legitimate. And we've had a slight breakout from there, and then we had a retest of that, and we've kind of struggled to get going on the upside. Here's where we initiated with a buy rating back at 41.50. We're at 42.50. And again, we're expecting 50. This has a big dividend. I want to say it's about 4.5%. The next best actionable idea over the short term that you could buy tomorrow if it's not up 2%, and that would be IEF, the 7 to 10 year Treasury. I remeasured from the bottom of the head to the neckline, and our price projection went down from 103 to 100, but I still think there's good upside here in a short amount of time. This really needs to get done in the next couple of weeks. And so, I was adding last week, and I'm looking for 100, and you get a monthly dividend. So in another, 10 days, you'll get 1/12 of 3.6% dividend yield, which is nice. And again, I think there's upside, while I think there's a lot of risk in the overall equity market. Antero Resources had a big week, up over 5%. It's broken out of this consolidation. Of course, the bigger pattern is pointing to 63. We're at 44. There's still a lot of upside here. If it was down, it's a volatile stock. If it was down 2% on Monday, I'd buy more. What do you do when we have up weeks like last week and this week? You sell some. So that's what I was doing. But if we get a pullback, I will be buying. And Antero Resources looks great. Natural gas, I bullish on. I haven't found a great entrance to getting a buy recommendation on that, but Antero Resources should really profit from that. Exelon, this is one that's got to get going. So the big pattern suggested a $51 price projection. We got to, let's call it 48. So is that it? That could be, it's price projections are just a landing area. We were really close. We've gotten a pullback. This big bullish hammer, I like that. This was back a couple of months ago. We've had kind of a tiptoe uh, downward kind of move, but we've not broken that $42 price projection. So I'm anticipating maybe one more high, but I'm not as big in this position as I've told you over the last several weeks. I did start buying when I had this bullish hammer. So here's just the way I would manage this position. We get a breakout. This is when you want to buy a big position. You want, if 5% is your maximum on an individual stock, that's where you'd be. And as prices were going up, you'd sell 20 basis points, 20 basis points, 20 basis points. You get up to the top, you might knock that down to 2% of your portfolio. And then after it fell, you might, again, it's not as attractive as it was down here. You might get back up to 3. Uh, and so that's kind of how I manage that position. XLU, the utilities index ETF, it's got like 100 companies in it, looks a little stronger. It was weaker during all this period. It looks a little stronger now. So anyway, that's excellent. Still bullish. You look at it from a reward to risk basis, and at 42.60, and if it breaks 42 to the downside by very much, you're going to get out of it with a small loss, and the potential gain is pretty big. So that's why I have Exelon here in the order. China, it's a little less attractive at this point after this big run up. And there's not a close stop here to stop you out if China the index starts to fall, but still bullish on China. Still think it's going higher. For the week down 1.5%. That was less than the U.S. stock market. So it's that's still bullish. I just not quite as bullish on this particular index right now. Silver, this still looks great. This is the big pattern, the big symmetrical triangle that suggests $64 price projection. It had a really big week, up 9%. It was up at one point, like for the week, like 13%, pulled back at the end of the week. So again, I wouldn't be chasing this too much, but with the recent pullback, if it was down on Monday, I'd add a little bit. I wouldn't add a huge amount, I'd add a little bit. Copper, the copper ETF, CPER. Again, it's really having a struggle here breaking out, but we're still long. We got our stop at 28.5. The potential for the upside in this pattern is enormous. A $42 price projection. And so we remain bullish on copper. Is a tariffs going to cause this thing to go up? I don't really try to rationalize. I don't want to get emotionally involved in these, but done really well on copper through a very choppy tradable sequence, but still bullish. And you could wake up one day and this could be like platinum. It could be up 15% in a day. And here's platinum. So platinum's really blasted off. Last 2 weeks ago, we had a huge up week, and then by the end of the week, it had settled down closer to the lows of the week. That's a little bit bearish on huge volume, but then again, this week you kind of got the same kind of thing where it opens with a gap higher and then it trades interweek and then comes down towards the low. Those are showing you that some people are exiting on these things, such as me. I'm definitely have been lowering my exposure in platinum, looking for a pullback. And again, on platinum, I might have had a 5% position. I'm probably down to 3% now, looking for another place to add. Uh, so we're going to take a look at the daily chart here. And so here we have what you call an island reversal, where you get a gap up and then you get a gap down. So I'd expect at least a couple more days of a down tilt to platinum. And I would look, if it's down, I'll just touch it and add a few shares. If it's down again, I'll touch it again. I'll add a few shares. We had a negative divergence on these higher highs. These things really work. We have a lower high on the underlying strength of this move up. So I think we probably get a couple of days here of downward price action, and I would be adding to my position on that because this pattern is still suggesting 144 and we're at 115. So there's still good upside, but nothing goes in a straight line. Thank you for watching Chart Built Wealth, Profitable Investing with Technical Analysis. Please like and subscribe. Have a great evening. Have a great Sunday tomorrow. Don't think about the markets. Adios.